Good morning, everybody. Let's have a look at Bitcoin, S&P, and altcoins just briefly. It is Monday, so there's no point in making any giant predictions as to what's going to happen this week. We like the market to tell us a little bit more about what's going on Monday. And it's still only 9:15, so let's have a think about Bitcoin on the daily, still above all moving averages, still in the box of significance. We're trying to stay above the cloud, and probably by the end of this week, if we stay at this price or higher, we will get ourselves a pump signal. To be fair, we need to be above about 68,000 really to get that. We're not there yet. We need a leading portion of the cloud to go green. We need this Chiku span here to close above the cloud, price to stay above the cloud. We've got the conversion baseline cross, so we're working on some kind of pump signal. The 4 hourly actually does have, the 12 hourly actually already has the pump signal, so that gives it more, I'd say, more weight to the idea that we're going to push up to this level, this 71,500. And to be fair, I like the way that looks. I actually think that that's good enough as it is to assume that we will push up to that level, any minute really. That signal's been in here for a couple of days, and I take that one seriously. So I do like it. I think it's good to go. But the daily will be even better because that would give it the power to break beyond this level and go to beyond the previous all-time high. That's what it would say. And again, daily above all moving averages still really nice. This could have been the pullback. This could have been it. The bearish divergence pulled back, marking the absolute top. This is how these usually work. Bullish divergence marks the absolute low. Bull div marks the low. Bear div marks the high. Bull div marks the low. Bear div marks the high. And so that might be it. And the same thing was evident on the S&P as well. So, we're boiling it down to all these different time frames. The odds are still in favour of further upside. It just feels a bit slow, a bit delayed, a bit sluggish, which leaves it to the mercy of the rest of the markets, really. Because if Bitcoin can't make the decision, the other markets will make the decision for it. And at the moment, futures market on the S&P is ever so slightly green. We do have the bearish divergence here, but again, this is the same thing that we saw on Bitcoin. One drive is enough on the weekly to cause the pullback to the Bollinger Band Center, bang up all the way to a new all-time high. So it does look quite reassuring that Bitcoin will do the same. Bitcoin dominance, got the bearish divergence on the weekly, but we've also got the golden cross. So if we do pull back, we do start to see some alt rallies. It can easily happen, but it would be only short-lived. It's be a decent move, to be honest with you. Almost 8% move if it was to do that, retest that golden cross. It doesn't have to do it, but that normally happens. I say normally. It's more often than not that will happen. So it does look like, you can back both sides here. You can buy the altcoins, you can buy the Bitcoin, you can buy whatever based on this particular analysis. This is an uptrend. It's not going to work out particularly well for altcoins generally because you're buying an uptrend on the dominance chart. But if you believe, as I do, that golden crosses get retested more often than not, it's not a bad idea. It's not particularly bad. It's not ridiculous. It's not based on anything other than the technicals to suggest that maybe you do get a pullback into this level before we carry on up. It's not unheard of. It's very common. A brief look at the Dixie then, and then I'll let you go because there isn't really much more to say. So the Dixie pulled back into the Bollinger Band Center. That's where it closed yesterday. Last week, the 20 weekly there. Technically, is a bullish chart. Obviously, there's your golden cross retest, and again, we're moving up. So because we're above all these major moving averages, puts more weight to the idea that this moves up also. The only thing that's going to make me think otherwise is that stuff about China dumping all those US bonds. That's a lot. So there's a lot of dollars getting sold on the market. And if you lose this area, it actually goes to a downtrend. So maybe China know what they're doing. Maybe they know exactly what they're doing. Because I'm not joking. If this area breaks, then it is a downtrend. We actually make our way back down to 100 or maybe even a little bit lower. So dollar hangs in the balance. We'll see. If the dollar starts to break down like that, it wouldn't take much for the Fed to go, right, we've got to sort this out. But for the moment, it seems relatively okay to assume that this will hold, but we'll wait and see. This is what Mondays are all about. Personally, though, if I had to make a decision, my decision would be that of continuation for Bitcoin. and Ethereum also sort of struggling with this 200 exponential, but more or less above it. So we could be looking at the beginning of a breakout really for Ethereum, which adds more weight to the idea that the dominance chart is going to continue to go down, maybe to the full 8% range that we've determined before a mega bounce. And looking at this chart on Ethereum, this is what I've been saying, a couple of weeks back really, when I said last week we might start to see some altcoin moves, because we're moving down towards this going across retest where you often get a decent move, a bounce, V-shaped recovery. So we might be looking to see ourselves back up to 4,000 maybe this month with a setup like this. We're just pushing these last areas of resistance now, and if we break that, we should be making our way back up. So it still looks okay. Everything still looks okay to me, to be honest with you. I'm quite hopeful with it, actually. Not just because of my own particular bias, which is that we're going to move up for a little bit, but because the chart structures do look like they're about to break the last major resistance, which should cause a larger move, which means that Ethereum, probably the first push, would take it up to about, we'll front run the targets, but roughly around 3,500. So, it's not too bad, $400 move really. But by doing that, it should be able to cause the dominance chart to come down, and obviously the total too should go up, which is also looking quite good as far as chart structure is concerned. I'm not saying alt season to the max is going to happen, but things are positioned in a particular way to suggest continuation for altcoins as well as Bitcoin, as well as stocks, But, the dark cloud is looming, being a big black oily cloud, which is basically moving back up again now after hitting that low $76 a barrel. Front run the target a little bit. If we do come down further, I would certainly be longing that. I was hoping to get a retest of this area, 75.50, and instead we got 76.80. So yeah, unfortunate. But that doesn't mean that we can't come down to retest it again. If we did, I would certainly long it. If we don't, then it's too late to long, but it does look like we're going to move up to 93. The only reason I talk about oil so often is because that's one of the main things, the main drivers of CPI. So talk about inflation, it's all fuel. Food prices are fuel. Manufacturing is fuel. Energy is fuel. Fuel is everything. And so if you see oil, which is fuel, going up in value, you can assume that there is a delay, but you can assume that a little bit later down the line you will see higher CPI. And unless the Fed recognise that, where they expect a higher CPI, then the market will have a little shock from it. So I think it's always worth looking at where oil's going to go and more or less perceive what CPI will be as a result of that. Anyway, it's Monday. Let's sit back and enjoy the show. If we stay above these levels for Bitcoin, which is more or less 66,700, which is really not far from where we're at right now, 66,700 again, 4 hourly major support, 65,000 flat really for 65,000. Yeah, it really is more or less 65,300 on the daily. Well, as long as we're above all of those, kind of quite hopeful that we will see ourselves up at 71,005 pretty soon, and whether we break that is a different story. When we do get to that level, I would be pretty cautious, just generally speaking, about everything, because that's a big resistance. We had a lot of problems around here. I know people will be calling for $100,000 Bitcoin, when we break 70,000. I just think it's worth taking profit on whatever it is that you're holding while Bitcoin gets to this level, because if it breaks down from here, then yeah, probably could get quite nasty. You could see a pullback down into the lower 50s. But until then, things look okay. So trade appropriately. Right, thanks for watching. If you want to subscribe to the channel, it's a really easy thing to do. Press the button. It says subscribe. Liking it as well is really good. If you want to take it one step further, I've got Patreon and a Telegram, and I'll see you there. Right, thanks for watching. Hope you have a nice day. Take it easy.